I spend all day using AI for different things. You do too. When I get an email, I know within 3 sentences if it was written by AI or by the person. And if it's written by AI, I don't tend to read it anymore.
Welcome back to the My Wife Quit Her Job podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how we plan on restructuring certain things that we do together, and namely the class. So Toni and I, we've run a class called Profitable Audience for, has it been 10 years yet? No,
It's almost 7 years. 7 years.
7 years. Okay, seven
Yeah.
years. 7 years. And things are just changing so quickly. So what we're going to do is uh, we're going to talk about what we're planning on doing to restructure it. So it's kind of like an inside look on how we are planning our changes to the class.
Yeah, it's we've been talking about doing this for a year now, I think, maybe longer. I
Yeah.
think it's been about a year. We've
I mean,
talked about
life
it.
gets in the way.
It
Yeah.
It does. And it's not like, so the interesting thing about our course, if you guys aren't familiar with it, is that unlike a lot of courses, we didn't just put out, 15 lessons and then shipped it, right? Like every week, every other week, we add new lessons to the course. So the course has been evolving for the past 7 years. So, which is actually to our benefit, because when we started this course, you weren't really even doing YouTube.
Nope. It was all blogging.
It was all blogging, it was
Yeah.
all SEO, writing strategies. And, it was funny, we were talking about this yesterday, and I'm kind of sad because I was like, that content's really good. Like the lessons are awesome. But the reality is a lot of those lessons are not things that, people have to pick what they focus on, and they're not the things that they should be focusing on today.
I mean, let's talk about what's changed, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that's changed is that blogging, I don't believe blogging is a really good standalone business model anymore. Google, with its updates and everything, and because of AI, blogs don't get any traffic anymore. And the way you used to make money with blogs was you would get someone on your site and maybe get them to click an affiliate link or something like that. But because AI and social media, they all want people staying on their own platforms now, websites haven't been getting any clicks at all. And it just keeps decreasing year after year.
Yeah, so a lot of the strategies that we taught in the beginning were great in 2019, but today it's not something that we would necessarily, it's nothing that we taught as bad or wrong. It's just not the strategy that you need today. However, I will say I was just in Shopify about 30 minutes ago, and you don't use Shopify, but they have this whole like agentic section now that you can go in, and we're starting to see an uptick, very small, but an uptick in sales from AI.
Oh, yeah. That's been happening in my store for like the last probably 8 months, I would say.
Yeah, we're starting to see it, like, making it, it's not meaningful yet, but it's worth paying attention to. And total side note, this probably should be another podcast, but we're also seeing a big uptick in sales from the Shop app, which is like that Shopify
Oh,
integration.
yes.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you just side note, if you have a Shopify store and you're not utilizing that, you need, we don't do any paid or anything like that, but you need to like at least make sure you're putting posts up in that app, because it goes out. We didn't do anything, and all of a sudden when we realized we had it, we had 100,000 followers on it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so don't neglect that. If you just see that in your Shopify dashboard and you're like, I'll look at that later. Don't look at it later. Look at it today. So anyway, but yeah, so we're starting to see sales come in directly from AI, which is exciting, I think.
I think the biggest change is what Google announced 3 weeks ago. They announced agentic shopping. And for all of you guys who didn't follow the Google I/O conference, the way it works now is there's going to be, or they're rolling this out, I should say, there's going to be this universal cart that just kind of follows you around the web. So you add something in, and then Google goes out and tries to find the best price for you for that product if there's any duplicates. And it also upsells you other products from other stores and whatnot. And so it's basically this agent behind the scenes doing shopping for you based on what you've added to the cart. And then at the end, you hit purchase and they never see your site at all. And instead, it shows up in your back end Like if you have a Shopify store or whatnot, and they make a
Right.
purchase, shows up in your back end, but nothing. I mean, your website basically isn't a part of the equation anymore.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what happens with like a comment sold, right? Where
Yeah.
you can shop live and you order and it processes through Shopify and they might never land on your site. At least there, they're interacting with someone in a live sale, but it's very similar in that like they're never actually browsing your website or clicking through pages or doing anything like that.
Yeah. So blogging is down, and anything related to video, I feel like is like the last bastion of content creation
Mm-hmm.
and authenticity. And what's the best way to be authentic is to be on video or audio for that matter. These days, I think writing, I can't, I'm just been chatting with some of my colleagues and whatnot. I think everyone is using automation for writing to a certain extent. And when I look at my accounts on LinkedIn and whatnot, it's starting to all sound the same, especially email newsletters.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice that?
Yep. Oh yeah.
And it's clearly being written by AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I actually think stinks
Yeah.
personally because like and I spend all day using AI for different things. You do too. When I get an email, I know within 3 sentences if it was written by AI or by the person. And if it's written by AI, I don't tend to read it anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I have a little trick that I'm doing right now with that. Just we'll talk about that later, but that might even be a whole nother podcast. But anyway, yeah. So I've noticed that. So one of my clients, the curriculum company, I follow a lot of other curriculum companies, especially I'm on their email newsletters and I'm seeing what they're doing, right? Which I think you should do if you have any sort of business. You should be following your competitors. What I've noticed is a lot of them, and I don't know if this is because it's curriculum. So I think there is like a concern that the curriculum's created by AI, which probably wouldn't be the best. That these emails that I'm getting from the competitors are like, hey, I want to talk to you. And just so you know, this is really me. This isn't AI, right? And that's not exactly the way they say it, but there are references to this being like their original thoughts and not something created by AI. So that's the trend
Interesting.
that I've been seeing in the curriculum space. I haven't seen it in like promotional emails from like Target or anything. Like, I don't think people care. They just want to know what's on sale for the week when they get a Target
Yeah.
email. But that founder content, people are starting to call out that it's not AI.
Interesting. Yeah. I've just noticed like a lot of my colleagues actually who do content creation and whatnot. I mean, it's just so obvious.
Yeah.
It's just so obvious, and they're not doing that. But on the flip side, like even videos I'm watching on YouTube are starting to sound AI too. Even though it's like a human reciting it, it
Yes.
sounds like AI.
Yes, because AI has a cadence. And I feel like the cadence is the same throughout everything, right? It doesn't, the content might change, but the cadence stays the same.
For the most part, unless you can mix it up, which
Yeah.
kind of brings us to like the changes in the class. I'm using AI for my content, but I'm using it in such a way where I have all of these files that I've trained Claude to sound like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have this process now. I'm actually publishing more than ever, right? A blog post a day, YouTube video a week. I'm posting on LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, TikTok every single day. And that would have been impossible for me to do even like a year ago.
Yeah.
Um, but there's this really nice process, which I'm actually surprised my colleagues aren't using for like their emails because they clearly sound AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a process where the content that you create gets better and better because after each time you write, and I'm not just blanketly creating something in AI and publishing it. I always have AI draft something for me. I go in and hand edit it to sound like me, and then I iterate with AI to just
Oh, I'm
indicate.
so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's say you went for check out. You
Uh,
checking out today?
no, tomorrow.
Oh, sorry.
I have do not disturb on my door. Give me a break. Anyway, go on.
I iterate with AI each time I create something to train it further to sound like me. And this is a process that I've been doing for probably a year now, and it's just getting better and better.
Yeah, and I think that's the step that people are missing is especially the people that you and I know that have decades worth of content, right? For someone like you or I or some of our friends, there's no reason why you can't feed all of this content that we wrote, right? We created, it's our voice, it's our style, and train the models to sound like us. It's like people just kind of forgot that they could do that and just started just cranking out as much as they could. And I think that's something you taught a lesson on this last week in the course,
Yeah.
about your process for doing that. And just on a funny side note, the class voted that I would have to implement your process to make sure it was doable. Uh,
Right. I
that it
actually haven't
wasn't too
published it yet because
technical.
I
I
got
know.
sick.
I've been
But
waiting. I
yeah.
haven't been home either, so it's
Right.
been fine because I don't have my desktop with Claude Code on it. But I do think that's a really important differentiator for people, and I think that a lot of the I don't even want to call them courses, but like videos or content that I see about, oh, how to use AI to revolutionize your business, they don't really talk about the part where you don't sound like a robot. Um, because I think very quickly people are realizing like, oh, that's just the same thing that I've read from four other people and deleting it or passing through it or not watching the whole video, whatever it is. And I think this is a way to make yourself stand out, but still utilizing all of the benefits of AI to increase production and streamline everything that you're doing.
And training it isn't like this one-time thing. Like you don't train it once and then you're good. Like I literally train it every time I have to edit a piece of content.
Yeah.
Because even today it's not perfect. I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably 85% of the way there, but I do still spend time like editing it. Like even my LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, and even my tweets, I go through and edit. And then at the end, I work with Claude and say, hey, say I didn't like how you wrote this line. Can you compare what you wrote with what I wrote or my edits, and let's make some changes to the way you generate content going forward.
Yeah.
And it's a slow process, but it's a process you have to go through.
Yeah. I can't wait to try to see if I can. I mean, I know I can do what you taught, but I think it's funny that I'm the class guinea pig now.
So what we're doing is we are changing the class to talk more about like how to incorporate AI into your content creation. And for all of you guys listening out there who aren't believers in content, I think content really is the way to market your business
Yeah.
going forward. Because I've been looking at like my Meta ads and my Google ads and whatnot, and all these companies they're spending so much money on AI right now. They need I feel like they've been just jacking up the rates for advertising indirectly because it's really a black box, right? You feed it ads, and then Google tells you, okay, well, you're going to need to pay more for click. And I always used to think that right before earnings, they would just jack everything up so they could make earnings and whatnot.
Yeah.
But they have full control over the bidding. And advertising is not getting any cheaper.
Right.
And if you're interested in learning how to start your own profitable e-commerce business, make sure you sign up for my free 6-day mini course below. It's 100% free, and I guarantee you'll learn a ton.
And it's really hard to build like a brand with ads as well. You have to do that through content. And, we've been teaching this class for a long time. Everybody knows that they need to be creating content, but very few people are consistent with it because of how tedious it is.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk about the consistency with one of our students. So we've mentioned her a couple times before, Brenda, who owns My Bobette, which is a way to cut your own hair if you have a specific hair type. And at Seller Summit, we really pushed her to start creating content. She's got a great personality. She's lovely, and a pretty cool product, right? It's a really interesting product, and she made I don't even know what it was, like a pact with herself, a promise to herself that she would put up a TikTok. And I don't know if she's doing this on Instagram too, but I see it on TikTok. She's doing a piece of content every single day. And, I think I saw her very first video when it went up, and, she got like 2 or 3 views. It was probably all people in the course, right, cheering her on, which is fine. That's one of the reasons why the course is great, right, is that they can go help, push your videos and content and give you feedback. But I saw a video from her today, and it had 42 likes. And
Nice.
she doesn't have a lot. I mean, she's only been doing this for what, a month
Yeah.
and a half, I
Month
guess.
and a half now. Yeah.
Yeah. So just that consistency. And she had no audience, right? Nothing. Like she didn't, a lot of people that we know or people in the class have some level of audience, whether it be like a personal fan base or, a previous piece of content site or, something. She doesn't have anything. Right. And so she started from absolute zero. And just because of the consistency is growing and her videos are getting more and more views just by posting every single day. Now, I know that's your nightmare, but I think that's where AI comes in, where one of the things that we're teaching in the course is ways to streamline a lot of the process so that creating a piece of content every day is not as overwhelming as it was 5 to 10 years ago.
I mean, across all platforms is how we're teaching
Right.
it. There's certain people that are on Twitter, people are on LinkedIn, people are on Facebook, people are on TikTok, some people watch on YouTube. I think the best way to market anything these days is to be on as many different platforms as possible based on one piece of content that you generate and then tailor that to all the different platforms. I was just thinking about Christina the other day. She actually just got her first sale and she literally just
Awesome.
launched, and she didn't want to pay for advertising. And
Right.
so what she's been doing is she's been posting on TikTok. Actually, she's on all the platforms, but
She is.
I think
She's
she's
doing
gotten the
great.
most traction from TikTok, and she sells a pet product. And just the inclusion of her, and she's very well spoken, her and her cute pets has resulted in her videos getting a decent number of views. And then she doesn't really mention her products in most of her
Mm-mm.
videos. But yeah, and so she got her first sale without paying for anything.
And here's the thing, I think there's a lot of people who are in Christina's boat where, and actually, I think we referenced this person last week from ECF where they spent a year creating content before they ever launched their product. But a lot of times when you are getting into the physical product business, you have to spend a lot of money to get the product. I know with Christina, for example, she had several samples that were incorrect or didn't meet her standards. She spent a lot on, product development and then obviously the cost of getting the products, inventory, and when it was all said and getting the website set up, all those things, right? And when it was all said and done, she didn't have a lot of extra money to then go, okay, I'm going to spend $500 a day in ads, right? So her whole strategy has been, I have to do this organically because my budget doesn't allow for me to just dump thousands of dollars into advertising. And unfortunately, for advertising to work, you do have to spend a lot of money to find your audience and to, get things started. So I think that's a good lesson in that it is possible to make sales through content. I mean, I think both of us probably know people who launched whole businesses and got them to 6 figures. I mean, I got my business to 6 figures without any ads. And it was mostly through content. And, I think that it's definitely something that people need to start looking into if they're in that position, right, where they don't have a lot of capital to move forward with like heavy advertising their product.
I mean, mywifequitherjob.com hasn't really advertised over the years.
Yeah.
I think I dabbled with it to drive people to my workshops at one point, but at the cost per leads I was getting, it didn't really make sense. And so, it's a 7-figure business, basically just on YouTube today, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you also didn't use any ads. You didn't use any ads on YouTube, did you?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one skill I haven't learned yet. Like with any one of these advertising platforms, there's always this tax you need to pay, which is learning how to use the platform and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so you end up wasting lots of money. But
yeah. So I think because of all this, in my mind, content, you know me, I've always been a big content person, but content is more important than ever. One, because advertising has gotten so expensive. And then two, I do think that component of connecting with your audience is really valuable. And I think that, Chuck talked about building a moat for your business, right? If you ever go to sell it, the moat really matters as far as like your valuation and how much money. And, we're definitely not in the business of teaching people to sell their businesses by any stretch, but having a loyal fan base I can remember when you and I first met, and I think we'd probably known each other a year or so, and I had never heard of you or your podcast or anything before I met you. And I heard you told me about the podcast. I listened. I was like, yeah, it's a good podcast, right? And just kind of went along with my daily life. And then you and I were in California. I don't know if you remember this. We were in San Diego for an event, and you and I were walking along like where all the hotels were, and there was like water and like so. And there, I think it was Social Media Marketing World. And this guy out of nowhere comes running up to you. Do you remember this? And he's like,
I don't
my wife
remember.
quit her job. My wife quit her job. And I was like, whoa, like who? Stalker alert. No. And he was like a very loyal listener of the podcast. And I think you had been doing the podcast for a couple years at that point. And you were very nice. And we talked to him for a bit, but it was kind of funny because like, he's like, you took piano lessons. I took piano lessons. He was like
I don't
taking
remember
little
this at
bits.
all.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Because I was kind of horrified, but also was like, this is cool, but weird because we weren't in, like, if we're in an event space, right? If like we had been in the convention center and someone had run into you and known who you were, that was fine. Because we both knew of people in that space, but
Sure.
we were just out in like the public area, not in the hotel, not in the convention. And he knew all this stuff about you. And I was like, oh, that's a little interesting. But I think he said he'd listened to every single podcast, read every blog article. Like he was a rabid fan of yours. And so I think that's the whole content play, right? Is you build up people like that who are willing to run across a parking lot to say hi and meet you and talk to you for 5 minutes and take a photo, that you're not going to get because someone saw your ad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't believe you don't remember this.
I don't remember this.
This is like one of my like core memories.
Happens so often, Tony.
Right.
No, I'm
I
just
know.
kidding.
It's
No.
like every time you go to dinner, I get it.
Actually, it has, I think, gotten a little bit more street cred with my kids because here in the Bay Area, occasionally I get stopped, and then,
Yeah.
And then my kids are like, "Wow, Dad, who was that?" And it's like, I don't know, just someone random. So
You can still go to the grocery store though, right? You're not inundated with the paparazzi.
yeah. Well, here, this is also what I wanted to talk about. Like with the current class, like even though all the lessons are really good, I think the challenging part has been getting people to actually take action and create the content on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
And we've tried a number of things. We've run challenges, which have been pretty good, where everyone's just creating content. I think we've done like a TikTok challenge where you have to post like once per day, and the fact that everyone's doing it together kind of gives you the motivation to continue on. But the problem is, I think, is when we're not doing these challenges, people tend to slack off. And really, I think the only way to make content work is to be consistent. Yeah. You can't just like pump out a lot of content in 1 month and then just pause for a month, right?
Yeah.
It's much better to just post less consistently than it is to just post a whole bunch and then drop off.
Well, and I think about the people in the course who have done this with consistency. So I have a couple people that come to mind. Charles, who goes live, I think every morning at 8:00 on YouTube. It might be every other day. I'm not sure of his cadence, but he's been consistent for many months, and he's built up this very loyal following. Because I joined a live one day and I was like, oh, he's got super fans on here, right? Nice. In the comments. And then I think about Christina, who has been very disciplined in putting the content out there pre-product launch. I think of Kevin, right, who slogged through YouTube for 18 to 20 months and is now, I think he said he was on track to make how much by the end of the year? I don't know, $10,000 a month. Or so it was like some really ridiculous number. He's now launched courses and, all sorts of things. And then, the OG David Craybill, right, who was our very first course member, runs a site called Forager and was like super consistent in his podcast. Remember we started his podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he still has it. He's still consistent. He's been consistent with email for years. So I'm still on his email list. And he's had a lot of doors open up from the consistency as well. So those are just a few people that I can think of off the top of my head. But when I look at the people in the course who have consistently done this week in, week out, they have all hit a level of success and are continuing to move forward in that way. And the common thread is not the platform they used or their personality or even their shticks, right? It's the consistency.
Yeah. So the question is, how do you maintain that consistency?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm of the belief, because this is what's worked for me, I'm of the belief that you need a system with AI to help you maintain consistency. Whereas I think for other people, you need constant challenges. But I don't think that's sustainable personally. And so that is why we're restructuring the entire class towards automation. At least that's how I would like to structure it, because that's what worked for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's the direction we need to go in. I do think that people are externally motivated, and so in my mind, we're going to continue to do these challenges and continue to incentivize people to, um, keep going. Because I mean, Kevin will tell you he wanted to give up, right? Many times, and it is depressing to be on year one of making your YouTube videos and having um 25 viewers. I think about, was it Financial Tortoise? Is that his website?
Tay,
Or
you're talking about Tay Kim?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard him talk a couple years ago, and he showed this chart of like the first 18 months of his YouTube, and it was like flatlined at basically zero, and then you saw like a bump, and then a bump, and then hockey stick, right? And so I do think to get through that first layer, you need some external, which is why we will keep doing office hours, we will keep doing check-ins, we will keep doing all of the thing, the Zoom calls where people can ask questions and we can get updates, because I do think that's important for people. You are, I would say, an anomaly in that I don't think you're super externally motivated to do things.
Yeah, no, not really.
Yeah,
You
you're
mean
just
like
like,
challenges and stuff? No,
yeah, like that doesn't
they're
work
not
for
for me.
you.
Yeah.
But but it works for like 95% of
I think so. I
humanity.
agree with you. I agree with you. What works for me is finding a system that is low effort that I can do
Yes.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I actually took a little page out of your book this week, because I've been working on YouTube scripts, and I felt like they were starting to sound more like AI, right? And so I was not happy. And this was the last time, my last batch. And so I started adding my own stories in. Like, I mean, I was using my own stories, but I was like adding like way detailed, right? Like to use that to get better scripting. But what I realized was I didn't have any stories of Liz. Now Liz has a lot of other responsibilities in this project, so like I wasn't like, hey Liz, can you go write 52 scripts about your life, and so I was kind of beating my head of like, okay, how can I do this so Liz can just do this really easily and get it to me? So I basically created this automation where she just talks into Chat GPT, right?
Nice.
And so like the questions are, it's a list. So like whenever she thinks of something, she picks up her phone, talks, and that way we have the content. So I do think the automations make a difference, because this probably would have been a continual hurdle for 6 months had I not made this little automation shift. And so I do think that's really impactful for people, and it is one of the things that will help them create consistently.
So what's funny about the way I use Claude now is when I'm drafting YouTube script, it now prompts me for stories, because I say every section must have either a personal story or a real life story to reinforce whatever the point is. And that's how you make AI slop less sloppy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then after that, it goes through and it drafts something, and then I'll insert numbers. And I use Claude only through the mic now. Like I
Okay.
actually
So
don't type,
I'm trying to get there. So
because I found that I can speak way better than I can type.
yeah.
And then I can just give out like this whole long thing, like go off for like minutes, and then Claude will do the right thing.
Yeah.
And so everything is done through the mic too, which has sped a lot of things up.
Which I remember, I want to say this was Jeff Rose who talked about this like 15 years ago, where he dictated everything, his blog post. Remember that? Like
Yeah.
back in the day. And I was just like, oh, who doesn't have time to write a blog post? Now I'm like, oh, I would love to speak every single thing that I do into Claude or Chat. So I do think that is I don't think many people are doing that.
Yeah.
especially in our course. Like I would say probably a global thing, but definitely not in our course. And I think that's one thing that I do want to like push people towards is, that way when you have an idea, you can just get it out there. And even if it just sits on it for a bit, that's fine. Um, but I think that's a huge time saver for people and will once again be something that they can use to be more consistent.
It's not just a time saver. Like, what's funny about all this is I'm actually treating it like a person, ironically. I'll say, "Hey, I don't like this first paragraph. It needs a story or something here. How about use this?" And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell a personal story to Claude, and then Claude will massage it into something
Yeah.
that sounds a lot better. And then we just kind of iterate from there.
Yeah.
And that is how you not produce AI slop. I think the people who are generating AI slop are the ones who are completely automating everything.
Yeah.
I I believe that if you're just publishing something straight from AI, it's always going to be not good.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
And then
So you-
people,
yeah.
what I see people doing is they're basically using that strategy, and then they're like, I don't understand why no one reads my stuff. I don't understand why no one watches my video. It's like, well, I do. It sounds like every other video out there. Like you've got to set yourself apart.
And I know for me, and this is kind of like a funny piece of advice, but I'll read it out loud because sometimes when I'm reading it, I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
this sounds pretty good. But then when I actually film the video, I'm like, this totally sounds like AI
Yeah.
for some reason or whatnot. And so instead of catching it at the filming stage, which is much harder to correct,
Yes.
now I just literally talk out loud the script before I actually film it. And you'll find these like little subtle things
Hmm.
that make it, because I guess I've just been doing this for so long now. Like I can spot AI from a mile away.
Hmm.
And I think it's just a matter of time before other people can spot it
Yeah.
just as easily. And it's like your reaction, right? As soon as I know something is AI in like a newsletter,
Hmm.
I instantly stop reading it.
Yeah. So I think the biggest change of the course that we're going to do, just to sort of wrap the course changes up, is something that I'm going to have a really hard time with, and that's removing content from the course. And it feels like I felt when I was doing like the blog audits, and you know I was having to. I mean, I didn't delete any. I deleted some posts, but most of my posts are sitting on like a dummy blog right now. I could not bring myself to like delete things, which is funny because in real life I throw everything away. Um, but when you were like yesterday, you said we'll have to like remove a lot of the lessons, and I was like, remove a lot of the lessons. What? But you made a really good point, and I think this is a great point in general for anyone creating something, is that smaller pieces of information are better, right? We have 300 lessons in the course or
Oh, is
something
that
like
right?
that. Yeah,
Jesus.
it's
Okay.
over 200. I know it's I think it's in the 250s or something like that. Which you think
Yeah.
7 years, right?
Yeah.
One lesson a week. We're going to have a ton of lessons. Um, no one can like it causes analysis paralysis, right? It's why
Well, that's why
grocery
we have
store,
Tony.
right? Yes, that's true. So, but I do think tightening up the content and this stuff will always be there for the people who are panicking. I know Christina's panicking right now and listening to this, so don't panic, Christina. It'll still be accessible. But I think having like a easier to get started, keep going, the stuff that's important today, like, sort of separated from, if you want to go back and watch really bad old videos of us, you can do that too. But, you know, there are definitely some lessons in there that are outdated, and nothing that we teach would ever like hurt your business, but it's definitely not something that we would want you to spend any time doing today.
I don't think that's the right way to put it. Like, I wouldn't say any of the blogging lessons are outdated. It's just the way of making money through blogging is what is
Right.
outdated. Like, I probably wouldn't. Here's the thing: like, you can teach someone to do something,
Yeah.
but like, there's no point now because you can just have AI take the best practices for SEO now and implement them in a post, and then you go back and make it sound like yourself, right?
Yeah.
Instead of learning like all the fundamentals of how to do that, which
Yeah.
isn't necessary anymore. It's kind of like when I was in undergrad in engineering, we were taught all the first principles on how transistors worked and all that stuff. But in real life, when I finally got to the job, I didn't use any of that information
Yeah.
because I was just trying to implement stuff. And I think for most of the population, like they just want to get it done and implement it, right?
I agree.
And so all those lessons that we have are like the theory of why it works.
Yeah.
I think we just push those to an archive where if
Yeah.
someone's interested,
Yeah.
they can go watch them. But really what matters is how you implement everything and how you get going and getting traffic and eyeballs on your content.
Yeah. As you said after watching our old Seller Summit videos, if someone wants to watch us age through the years,
Oh
they
man,
can
I was
go.
watching 2016.
Oh,
Well, I don't want to speak for you, but I look a lot different.
I look a lot different too. We're both so happy and young.
I know. Innocent. Oh, let's start a conference. Okay. Sounds like
We
a great
weren't
idea.
weathered.
Yeah.
No amount of Botox will fix the stress of a conference. So.
But anyways, if you're listening to this and you're struggling to maintain consistency with your content creation, there's a better way to do it, and that involves automation. And I know I live in a bubble here in Silicon Valley where everyone's AI this, AI that. I've just found with my class that the other part of the U.S. outside of California are less inclined for AI, and it's been somewhat of a struggle getting people to jump on board. But if you're struggling with consistency, I think that AI and automation and training it is the answer to all of your problems.
I would also say if you're struggling even understanding how AI can work for you, we have broken it down into very easy to understand, easy to digest lessons so that you can start doing these things. It's not complicated. And we walk you step by step through the whole process.